let's talk about Sarah Boone today. It's been a while since we covered Sarah Boone, and she had an inquiry that was posted around, I think, a little bit before Halloween, and I was going to cover it, but I have this really bad habit of hyper focusing on a task and then not wanting to pivot to other things, even though they might be a higher priority, because I want to finish the task at hand. I don't know. Are you guys like that as well? I feel like it's something that I really need to work on this upcoming year. So I meant to cover this before, but I was busy with some stuff. And then, yeah, anyways, excuses. I know, excuses. But Sarah Boone, let's just recap a little bit about her. For those of you guys who did not watch her case, I feel like a lot of you guys from my channel probably did. Sarah Boone was accused of murdering her boyfriend at the time, George Torres. She's accused of essentially killing him by suffocating him in a suitcase. Yeah, the whole case is completely wild. The trial happened about last year. Now, she was given an opportunity to take a plea deal. The attorney that was representing her, well, he wasn't representing her at the time, but he felt bad for her. He wanted to help her out. He was trying to get her to take the plea deal, and she said no to it. She was looking at, I think, 15 years, and she had already served about, what, like 4.5 years already? Anyways, she didn't take the plea deal. The attorney decides to take her case anyways, Mr. James Owens. He tried to do a motion for a continuance. That was denied, and he had about, like, I don't know, like 90 days or something like that to scramble to try to represent her. Since we don't have the chat today, we can go to the bigger screen. Sarah Boone was found guilty of second-degree murder, and that was on October 25th of 2024, so roughly about a year ago. Now, during this time, they did try to ask the judge for a downward departure, meaning, hey, judge, maybe we shouldn't give her life imprisonment. Maybe we should, give her something a little bit less than that. And the reasons for that is because they said, the defense says, the capacity of Sarah Boone to appreciate the criminal nature of her actions and to conform said actions to the requirement of law was dun, 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 substantially impaired. They were drinking a lot. They were having bottles and bottles of wine. Sarah Boone is going to say that, like, oh, well, I was so impaired. My judgment was not completely there. Furthermore, they also said that Sarah Boone requires specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is not related to substance abuse or addiction because, Sarah Boone drank a lot. She seemed to have an issue with drinking alcohol and not really doing anything with her life, not having a real job, getting into these fights with her boyfriend and maybe other people in her lives and just treating them really badly. Also, it's not related to substance abuse or addiction and is amenable to treatment. Great. We love it when people are changing, But did Sarah Boone really change? Let's keep reading. The defendant acted under extreme duress. The offense was committed in an unsophisticated manner. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Which was isolated and for which the defendant has has shown remorse. For those of you guys who followed the case, for those of you guys who saw the trial, her testimony, because yes, she did testify, and for those of you guys who saw what happened at sentencing and the letter that she wrote to the judge afterwards, do you guys believe that Sarah Boone has shown remorse whatsoever? I don't think so, because not only did she lie, she also lied again when she was testifying. She went after the victim's family. She went after the victim himself, attacked his character. And I know it was a very horrible, toxic relationship that they had, but Sarah Boone was a real piece of beep. Even after she was sentenced, I think she was so pissed at the judge, the world, everyone that they didn't believe her. She released this unhinged correspondence to the judge. It was about like 28 pages, basically just like trashing everyone. So I don't know. I don't think Sarah Boone really has remorse. Hopefully that will change. And, she has the rest of her life to really think about it. But, am I going to really hold my breath on that? No. 2 months after her verdict, or I guess about like a month and a half afterwards, she was given a life imprisonment. Oof, she is probably ruing over the fact that she should have taken that plea deal. I would say Sarah Boone is widely known for, yes, being the suitcase murderer, but also for having a shit ton of attorneys representing her. She was writing these letters, bashing her attorneys left and right. And there were some attorneys that withdrew because there was conflict or some other issues that were not, Sarah Boone's fault. However, I think Sarah Boone was on attorney number 9, 10. She even tried to go pro se and represent herself. But thank goodness Mr. James Owens came in and represented her instead, because I've always said this. I prefer it when they have someone who is an attorney to represent them. I don't want to deal with all the nonsense with like the Lori Vallows, trying to represent themselves and just being a complete embarrassment. So Sarah Boone, again, we are now in the appellate stage, and you would think that, okay, we're just nothing really much is going to happen, right? Wrong. There are issues with Sarah Boone and the appellate attorneys now. Hey, y'all, it's Corgi here. Thank you so much for watching the updates about Sarah Boone. Guys, if you guys are enjoying this, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so I can see you guys again, especially if you're new here. Stop by the live stream, say hello, and yeah, that's it. Let's get back to Sarah Boone. Wow, actually, I look so crazy here. Why did I pause here? After her sentencing, she was appointed an appellate attorney. This was Alan Holland. Something happened to Alan Holland. Maybe it was a conflict of some sort, and they withdrew, and Joshua Adams was instead appointed. Now, I can really appreciate Mr. James Owens. It seems like, even though I thought he was okay during the trial, but I really do appreciate when there's an attorney that really tries for their client, although I do believe that he was very, very overwhelmed, and that's why his performance was not really, in my opinion, top notch, and he kind of did a horrible job in closing arguments. So I'm super digressing right now. But going back to Mr. James Owens, I do appreciate the fact that it seems like, he was getting his stuff in order. So after when Sarah Boone was appointed this new appellate attorney, he put in this notice of appeal. And I can zoom in for you guys. There you go. So he put in this notice of intent to appeal. This was on December 18th. And then these are the transcripts that he requested the court reporter to provide for the appellate courts. So, for example, we're going to go over the court's denial of defendant's motion for continuance on September 3rd, 2024. So again, Mr. Owens, of course, did not agree with Judge Koenig when he asked for Judge Koenig to continue the case. And Judge Koenig is like, no, you signed up on this knowing exactly where we were at and knowing that this has been continued so many times already, so we're just not going to do that. So, we've heard this many times where Mr. Owens is like, oh, Judge, I had 90 days, man, 99, or was it 45 days? I think it was 45 days. I think it was 45 days that he had to prepare for the trial. Secondly, the court's denial of defendant's second amendment motion to suppress the defendant's statement at Orange County Sheriff's Office. So this is where I believe, if I remember correctly, James Owens argued that Sarah Boone was essentially tricked into coming into the Orange County Sheriff's Office. They took away her cell phone, and essentially the detective was like, hey, if you want your cell phone back, you have to come in and pick it up in person. So Sarah Boone goes in, she picks it up in person. She had these sheets of paper where she was going to ask the detectives a bunch of questions. And I think she also wanted to pick up George's wedding ring that she purchased for him. So they said that it was basically a trickery, that they forced Sarah Boone or tricked her into coming in, and it was under the guise of trying to get her to, I guess, participate in the interview and get her to incriminate herself. So they wanted to have her statements denied, and the judge was like, nope, that's not going to happen. Third, court's denial of defendant's motion for a new trial on December 2nd, 2024. This is where I believe Mr. Owens cited that, I didn't like it that I don't want to say I didn't like, but it was essentially there was that expert who gave Mr. Owens an opinion. And when she was supposed to have a new opinion, she was supposed to update him. She didn't really do that. She testified at the trial with a new opinion. And Mr. Owens was like, hold on a second. What is going on here? And that's where Judge Koenig was like, ooh, yikes, it's pretty bad. But in order to remedy this, we'll just have you question this expert outside the jury. And you can ask the expert whatever you want, within whatever purview. So that was basically the remedy for it. And Mr. Owens was not very happy with that. And I kind of do agree. It felt like he was probably being blindsided. There was that. There was an outburst from George's mom where I think the state was giving their closing statement, and they showed, I think they played the audio of George being the suitcase. And I think the mom completely just broke down. But she did leave the court. There was also, what else was there? Oh, what else Mr. Owens complained about? Those are two that I remember off the top of my head. Then we have a court's denial of defendant's motion for a downward departure on December 2nd. So again, that's what I read earlier, where Mr. Owens was like, hey, is it possible we don't give her a life sentence? Is it possible we can go a little bit more easy on her? Here are the circumstances why, and the judge denied that. And then lastly, it is the judgment and sentence of the court on December 2nd, 2024. So like I said, I really appreciate that Mr. Owens, even though he's handing off Sarah Boone to the appellate attorney, I'm glad that he's still doing his work, right? Because after this, it seems like the appellate attorney really drops the ball, in my opinion. Oh, that's right. We're going to the screen. Oh, wait, is it a line? Oh, let me zoom in. There we go. That looks good. So this is January of 20th, 2025, and Sarah Boone is like, hey, it says that Joshua Adams is the, attorney that is assigned to my appeal, and I just haven't really heard anything from him. Now, I know that Sarah Boone has fibbed quite a few times when she was complaining about her former attorneys. This one, like I still want to give her the benefit of the doubt. Should we be giving her benefit of the doubt, even though she lied so much? I will give her the benefit of the doubt. Okay. So she said that she hasn't heard any correspondence from Mr. Joshua Adams. What's happening here? And at this point, it's been about what, like a month since he's been assigned to her case. Now, we do get a response from the deputy clerk, and they said that, hey, we got your correspondence, Sarah Boone, which I know she probably loves this. However, yes, Joshua Adams has been appointed to represent you for your appeal, but at this time, no notice of appeals is on file. And I'm thinking, maybe the attorney's just really busy. When you're working with appeals, you're doing a lot of research. I don't know how many other clients he has. He's probably just really busy and things are just, moving a little bit slowly here. But like I said, it's only been about a month since he's been assigned on this case. Now we're at the end of February 2025, and we see that Joshua Adams is okay. He's like getting stuff done. So he asked a court reporter to transcribe all the stuff that Mr. Owens was listing before. Again, the motion of continuance, the suppressing defendant statements, jury selection, the trial itself, and the sentencing. So give us the transcripts. That way, when he makes his arguments, he'll have the transcripts to refer to. Within the next few months, things aren't really, I don't know, nothing's really progressing. After Josh asked for the transcripts at the end of February, it's now beginning of March and there's still no transcripts. So, the motion to extend is essentially moot because we're still waiting for it. A few days afterwards, a court reporter asked for an extension of time, which was granted. They were given for another month to provide these transcripts. However, a month passes by and they're like, the appeals court is like, hey, like what's happening here? We don't have the record on appeal. They need to transmit it, or you need to file a response as to why this appeal should not be dismissed. And if I was Sarah Boone, I'd probably be sweating here because now we're in May and nothing's really happening. 3 days after that, we finally have an index to record on the appeal. However, a month passes by into June where the initial brief has not been filed yet. The appeals court is like, what's happening here? Again, either file the initial brief or put in a response as to why this appeal should not be dismissed. So end of June, this is like June 24th, Sarah Boone was like, hey, yeah, what's happening here? Because I know that Joshua Adams has been assigned to my case. He actually did introduce me to him on February 27, 2025. He sent a very basic, introduction via inmate messaging, asking if she had any information and to not hesitate to contact him. However, Sarah Boone, this is her words again, I'm giving her benefit of the doubt, but Sarah Boone's like, oh, I got this like introductory message. However, after that, I tried to contact him. I tried to reach him. I haven't heard anything from him. I sent him 5 messages. I sent him 2 handwritten letters to his office in order to receive the status of the appeal and also whether or not he received any of my correspondence, but I'm getting no response from him. Not only that, she had apparently like 9 third-party representatives on her behalf email and try to call him, but again, they all go directly to voicemail. Oh, sorry, did it cut off? Oop, there you go. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut it off right there. So this is June 24th, 2025. And Sarah Boone's like, okay, like what's happening here? It's been 6 months since my sentence and nothing's really going on. Like, I just want to make sure my appeal is not going to be in jeopardy. So around this time, the motion for the extension was granted. However, I think like a month later, we finally get this on the docket. Motion to withdraw and request for appointment of new appellate counsel. So he's been on this case for about 7 months now, and now he's requesting to withdraw. And I was like, well, okay, you better have like a good reason to withdraw. This is what he writes. The undersigned is no longer practicing appellate work or accepting court-appointed appellate cases, which would make the continued representation a hardship. Continue to represent the appellant on appeal would materially impair counsel's ability to provide effective assistance and would delay or jeopardize the appellant's appellate rights. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like, okay, it's been 7 months now. Did you just recently not accept appellant work? Or was this something that was happening way before? Or was it happening during the time that you received Sarah Boone as a case? Why was this not filed a lot sooner? I'm guessing he recently just did not accept appellant work anymore. And he's like, hey, like, there's no point in me like, if I'm not working in batches of like all this appellant work and like dealing with the appellate court, taking on normal cases and this like one appellate work would just be too much of a hassle for me, maybe, and that would cause a lot of hardship. But yeah, quite interesting. So he asked for a motion to withdraw, and that was denied because the judge was like, okay, well, did you consult with the state yet? It seems like you haven't, so I'm going to just, deny your motion. And so as he's trying to withdraw, he did put in a motion for extension of time. So it's like, okay, that's nice of you. So you're going to be off the case, and you're at least letting the appeals court know that, hey, I'm going to be off this case, but let's put in a motion for an extension of time because, I don't want anything to jeopardize Sarah Boone's case. This is where it was denied because he didn't consult with, I guess, the state first that I mentioned earlier. Judge Cranick, oh, I miss Judge Cranick. So Judge Cranick does allow Joshua Adams to withdraw, and they appoint someone else for the case, Rodrigo Caruco. However, Rodrigo Caruco, if I remember correctly, I was reading this earlier. What was it again? He was actually accepted into the position of the regional something's office, and because of that would conflict. So he was like, hey, I can't be, working on Sarah Boone's case. And they did allow him to withdraw. But I don't know if Sarah Boone is just not getting these updates or what. And we'll get to that point soon. So Mr. Caruco was allowed to withdraw. And at this point, we're in September 12, 2025, okay? And they appoint a new attorney, David Maldonado. I love that last name, by the way, Maldonado. I love that last name. So he's a new attorney that's representing this case. Now, the reason why I'm covering this right now is because Sarah Boone inquires in, and she's like, what the fuck is happening with my case? It's been almost a year. Okay, sorry, okay. I'll just read her letter verbatim. But if I was her, I'd probably be like, what is happening here? I have this attorney that was, forced to withdraw. I have a new attorney that was assigned to my case for about 7 months, and now they're trying to withdraw. Like, who is the new attorney that's working on my case? I'm not getting communication. What's essentially happening here? Now, the appeals court was like, okay, we're going to grant the second motion for extension of time. Again, this was filed by Joshua Adams, the second appellant attorney. And this is Sarah Boone's correspondence, which we are going to be covering today. So I hope that I didn't take too long doing all the preface stuff for this video. I wanted this video to be short, quick, and straight to the point, but I like giving background information in case, because we haven't covered Sarah Boone in a while, and I feel like sometimes you will forget. Let me know if that's helpful for you guys or not. Or if you're just like, I have good memory. I don't need this background information, Corgi. I'm sorry. All right, so Sarah Boone puts in this notice of inquiry, and I think this was at the end of October. Again, I was supposed to cover this, but I was too busy tunnel visioning on some other tasks that I had. October 27, 2025. I actually saw this letter the day it was uploaded to the case case website. All right, notice of inquiry. Number 1. After appellant's first court-appointed appellate attorney, Alan Holland, December 2nd, 2024 to February 18, 2025, was granted a motion to withdraw, Joshua Adams appointed by the court to represent her and submit the initial brief in and for her criminal appeal. I think that date is wrong, by the way, so I'm just being a little weird and nitpicky. Alan Holland was allowed to withdraw, I think it was December 18, not February 18. Number 2, during Mr. Adams' time frame of 7 months, actually more than that, from February to September. No, it was February to September, like 9 months, I think. In his representation of Ms. Boone, which includes filing 2 extensions to continue doing so, he made the decision to withdraw without submitting her initial brief, citing he's no longer practicing appellate work or accepting court-appointed appellate cases. Number 3, Joshua Adams corresponded with the appellant in 1 public access tablet message on February 27, 2025, briefly introducing himself with no follow-up or continued contact to present date. If that is true, I'm going to put a huge emphasis on if, but again, I'm giving her benefit of the doubt, and some of you guys are yelling in your head like, Corey, what the fuck are you giving her benefit of the doubt? I'm just giving her benefit of the doubt. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. That is wild to me. If that is the only correspondence that he had with Sarah Boone, and it wasn't even like a back and forth with her, it was just like, here's my introductory paragraph, peace out, and then you never hear from him ever again. That to me would just probably drive me nuts as well. And I feel like I'm a pretty patient person. However, if it came to stuff that is as important as this, I'm not quite sure I would be very patient, though. I probably would want to be on top of it. But like I said, with appellate attorneys, I would probably make the assumption that they're very busy. They have a lot of research, a lot of work to do, and me, if I was Sarah Boone as an inmate, I probably don't know much about appellate stuff, and I probably would just let the attorney do their thing. But if there was no conversation with that appellate attorney, then that would fucking worry me. I'd be like, what's happening here? Number 3, Joshua Adams. Okay, so he introduced himself. This was February 27th. Number 4, as of filing this date, appellant has no understanding of whom her present appellant attorney is or the current status of her appeal, nor the preparation of her initial brief as a result of no communication or inclusion from any party. So at this point, she's like, I don't even know who's on my case. Joshua Adams is on there, but at this point, Joshua Adams was allowed to withdraw, and they assigned Mr. Caruco. He was allowed to withdraw because there was a conflict, because he was appointed in the regional something office. I don't remember. I'm so sorry about that. And we have a new attorney on her case, Mr. Maldonado. I don't think she knows what's been happening here. It seems like she doesn't. All right, so no communication or inclusion from any party, including the 6th District Court of Appeal and or the Orange County Clerk of Court, because I don't think it's their job to like update her about this. Honestly, I think she needs to really keep those relationships with those third party people like alive, you know, because I think that's the only way she can be really updated on everything. Let those third party people check her fucking docket every fucking day and then give her the updates, you know, write her the snail mail, and it'll probably take her time, take some time to get Sarah Boone, but that might be the best way. I don't know. I've never been an inmate before. I don't really know how these things work, but I'm assuming that you don't really get the updates that you want to get. So, wherefore, appellant Sarah Boone respectfully files this notice of inquiry to request pertinent information regarding the updated name, contact phone, address of successor court-appointed counsel to represent her, and the status of her appeal, including the filing of the initial brief in this matter. So I can appreciate that the 2 correspondents that we got from Sarah Boone so far, is it 2 or 3? I think 2, right? She doesn't sound unhinged. And I'm really surprised because I thought she would just be like, you know what? Fuck it. I've already been sentenced life in prison. Who cares at this point? Let's just burn everything down. So I can appreciate that she is not her usual unhinged Sarah Boone letter writing shit, you know? Like I'm just remembering all the crazy stuff that she would say, attacking everyone. So I won't give her that much grace though, because again, after her sentencing, she did write that, was it a 30-page letter to the judge, and she was unhinged of that one. So it's definitely in her, but not in these letters that we're covering right now. Anyways, guys, but that's pretty much it for Sarah Boone. I do apologize. I should have covered this way earlier, and I will work on my tunnel. Hyper focusing on just tasks that I don't know. I need to prioritize things a little bit better. So anyways, guys, let me know if you guys suffer from the same thing. Yeah. That's about it for today. Now, you know who else filed for a notice of intent to appeal? Miss Donna Adelson. So, Mrs. Donna Adelson. So I wonder if we will get the initial brief for Donna Adelson before we get one from Sarah Boone. And Donna Adelson's trial was about a year after Sarah Boone. So we'll just see what happens, you know? Either Sarah Boone is just very fucking unlucky, or, you know, maybe she is lying. Maybe she has correspondence with Joshua Adams and she's misrepresenting it. I don't know. But yeah. So Sarah Boone, attorney issues before trial, and now after trial and appellate stuff. So I will keep an eye on this and see if anything else is happening with this, and maybe Mr. Maldonado will file this initial brief and things will go smoothly. We'll see. That's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next one.